Hello and welcome to this final first look exploring session looking at The English Traveller by Thomas Heywood. We have generally really enjoyed this play. It is good fun, in marvellous individual scenes, excellent flow of the action. There have been a few reservations and worries registered about how the play's going to end because we've been here before, and so we're going to find out now whether the curse of the final session is about to strike. The only real complaint I suppose so far is that the opening of the play introduced a few hares, and I'm not sure there are any hounds to chase them up. But hey, you could probably just trim those bits out if that is the case, but we shall find out in this final session. We're a bit short of readers, so there may be some clashes with people talking to themselves, but hopefully it won't happen very often or for very long. So reading Reignald today is
Alan in Suffolk.
Reading Wife, Robin and Old Geraldine is
Sarah Blake, actor, writer and director based in Germany.
Reading a Young Geraldine and first owner is
Aliki Chapple, actor and translator based in the north of England.
Reading Clown, Rioter and Prudentilla is
Emma Kemp. I'm an actor based in London.
Prudentilla sounds like an insurance company, really, doesn't it? Reading Dalavill and Old Lionel is
Steve Longstaffe in the northwest of England.
And reading Wincott and Young Lionel is
Lynn, Freitas, college composition teacher in the northwestern United States.
And reading Ricott today is
Briony in Lincolnshire.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading stage directions and inferred or original as we go. So we're inferring that we're now going into Act 4, Scene 2. And enter the clown.
This is the garden gate, and here am I set to stand sentinel and to attend the coming of young Master Geraldine. Master Dalaville's gone to his chamber, my mistress to hers. 'Tis now about midnight. A banquet prepared, bottles of wine in readiness, all the whole household at their rest. And no creature by this honestly stirring, saving I and my old master. He in a by-chamber, prepared of purpose for their private meeting, and I here to play the watchman against my will, Shaveler.
Enter young Geraldine.
Stand. Who goes there?
Friend.
The word.
Honest Roger.
That's the word indeed. You have leave to pass freely without calling my corporal.
How go the affairs within?
According to promise, the business is composed, and the servants disposed. My young mistress reposed. My old master, according as you proposed, attends you if you be exposed to give him meeting. Nothing in the way being interposed to transpose you to the least danger, and this I dare be deposed, if you will not take my word, as I am honest Roger.
Thy word shall be my warrant, but secured most in thy master's promise, on which building by this known way I enter.
Nay, by your leave, I that was late but a plain sentinel will now be your captain conductor. Follow me.
And they exit. I think we should just briefly pause to acknowledge the music hall patter of Clown there, which I particularly liked. I mean, it's strange because again, tonally, this should be about the dramatic setting up of a meeting that's going to change this, change some sense of things going on. This is plot moving stuff, but the clown's there just doing clown stuff, and it's an interesting juxtaposition I like very much.
Yeah, I was going to say, hey, turns out Roger's a rap star.
Yeah. Sarah, then Stephen.
I'm sorry to do this, but I can't remember. Who is he going to meet? Who is young Geraldine going to meet here?
He's going to meet Wincott, the wife's husband.
Right, and do we know why? I'm having a blank from yesterday.
Yeah, we do. His father told him never to go near Wincott and his wife again.
Oh,
And then Wincott sent him a message saying,
Yes,
dude,
yes.
where are you?
yes, that's right. Thank you for reminding
And of
me.
course, Geraldine wants to find out, the truth about what's going on with Wincott and his wife. So, and Dalavill and all the rest of it. So, this is, as I say, potentially quite a dramatic setup. And he's totally undercut by the clown just going, fa-di-da-di-dee. Stephen.
Posed, repose, depose.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could imagine I really like the way Emma did it. But you can also imagine the clown kind of almost conducting the audience. The sort of all joining in or something on the posed. But that wasn't what I wanted to say. I love it's not just doing clowning stuff. It's kind of like stepping in and out of the play, isn't it? Here's the garden gate. It's about midnight, and after he's done the kind of thriller intro, he then sort of enters into the world of the play, and I love that kind of fluidity. That some of the time the clown is very obviously outside the play talking to us. This idea that there's kind of two bits of the stage, really. One where the kind of proper action happens at the edge of the stage, which is where people talk to the audience. Alan used the word locus in one of the other videos. Locus is where the kind of real play world is. But I just love the idea that the clown is just kind of scooting between the two. We'll play a part, we'll not play a part, we'll notice the audience, we'll not notice the audience, in and out. And it keeps it kind of playful as the action, I'm guessing, is getting a bit kind of darker.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, well, let's go straight into the action as we go into the next scene, which effectively flows into this one to a degree, but it's a separate scene as we've got it laid out here. I don't know whether later editions have got alternative scene numbers, by the way. So Act 4, Scene 3, table and stools set out, lights, a banquet, wine. Enter Master Wincott.
I wonder whence this strangeness should proceed, or wherein I, or any of my house, should be the occasion of the least distaste. Now, as I wish him well, it troubles me.
Enter Clown and young Geraldine.
But now the time grows on, from his own mouth to be resolved, and I hope satisfied. Sir, as I live, all my friends to me most wishedly you are welcome. Take that chair, I this. Nay, I entreat no compliment. Attend. Fill wine.
Till the mouths of the bottles yawn directly upon the floor, and the bottoms turn their tails up to the ceiling. Whilst there's any blood in their bellies, I'll not leave them.
I first salute you thus.
It could not come from one whom I more honour. Sir, I thank you.
Nay, since my master begun it, I'll see it go round to all three.
Now give us leave.
Talk you by yourselves, whilst I find something to say to this. I have a tale no tell him, shall make his stony heart relent.
Exit the clown.
Now, first, sir, your attention, I entreat. Next, your belief that what I speak is just, maugre all contradiction.
Both are granted.
Then I proceed. With due acknowledgement of all your more than many courtesies, you've been my second father, and your wife my noble and chaste mistress, all your servants at my command, and this your bounteous table, as free and common as my father's house. Neither against any, nor the least of these, can I commence just quarrel.
What might then be the cause of this constraint in thus absenting yourself from such a love, such as love you?
Out of many I will propose some few. The care I have of your as yet unblemished renown, the untouched honour of your virtuous wife, and, which I value least, yet dearly too, my own fair reputation.
How can these in any way be questioned?
Oh dear sir, bad tongues have been too busy with us all, of which I never yet had time to think, but with sad thoughts and griefs unspeakable. Have been whispered by some wicked ones, but loudly thundered in my father's ears, by some that have maligned our happiness. Heaven, if it can brook slander, pardon them. that this my customary coming hither hath been to base and sordid purposes, to wrong your bed, injure her chastity, and be mine own undoer. Which how false!
As heaven is true, I know it.
Now this calumny arriving first into my father's ears, his easy nature was induced to think that these things might perhaps be possible. I answered him as I would do to heaven, and cleared myself in his suspicious thoughts as truly as the high all-knowing judge shall of these stains acquit me, which are merely aspersions and untruths. The good old man, possessed with my sincerity, and yet careful of your renown, her honour, and my fame, to stop the worst that scandal could inflict, and to prevent false rumours, charges me, the cause removed, to take away the effect, which only could be to forbear your house, and this, upon his blessing, you hear all.
And I of all acquit you. This your absence, with which my love most cavilled, orders in your behalf. Had such things passed betwixt you, not threats nor chidings could have driven you hence. It pleads in your behalf, it speaks in hers, and arms me with a double confidence, both of your friendship and of her loyalty. I am happy in you both, and only sorry. I am happy in you both, and only doubtful which of you two doth most impart my love. You shall not hence tonight.
Pray pardon, sir.
You are in your lodging.
At my father's charge.
My conjuration shall dispense with that. You may be up as early as you please, but hence tonight you shall not.
You are powerful.
This night of purpose I have parted beds, feigning myself not well to give you meeting. Nor can be aught suspected by my wife. I have kept all so private. Now, 'tis late, I'll steal up to my rest. But howsoever, let's not be strange in our writing. The way daily we may confer without the least suspect, in spite of all such base calumnious tongues. Now, good night, sweet friend.
Exit Wincott.
May he that made you so just and good still guard you. Not to bed, so I perhaps might oversleep myself, and then my tardy waking might betray me to the more early household. Thus, I'll rest me on this pallet. But in vain, I find no sleep can fasten on mine eyes. There are in this disturbed brain of mine so many mutinous fancies. This to me will be a tedious night. How shall I spend it? No book that I can espy, no company. A little let me recollect myself. Oh, what more wished company can I find, suiting the apt occasion, time, and place, and the sweet contemplation of her beauty, and the fruition, too, time may produce of what is yet lent out. 'Tis a sweet lady, and every way accomplished. Hath mere accident brought me thus near, and I not visit her? Should it arrive her ear, perhaps might breed our lasting separation, for 'twixt lovers no quarrels to unkindness. Sweet opportunity offers prevention, and invites me to it. The house is known to me, the stairs and rooms, the way unto her chamber frequently trodden by me at midnight and all hours. How joyful to her would a meeting be, so strange and unexpected, shadowed too beneath the veil of night. I am resolved to give her visitation in that place where we have passed deep vows, her bedchamber. My fiery love this darkness makes seem bright, and this the path leads to my delight.
And he goes in at one door and comes out at another.
And this the gate unto it. I'll listen first, before too rudely I disturb her rest and gentle breathing. She's sure awake, for in the bed two whisper, and their voices appear to me unequal, one a woman's and hers. The other should be no maid's tongue, it bears too big a tone. And hark, they laugh! Damnation! But list further. T'other sounds like 'Tis the same false, perjured traitor Dalavill to friend and goodness. Unchaste, impious woman, false to all faith and true conjugal love. There's met a serpent and a crocodile, a Sinon and a Circe. Oh, to what may I compare you? But my sword, I'll act a noble execution of two unmatched for sordid villainy. I left it in my chamber. And thanks heaven that I did, too. It hath prevented me from playing a base hangman. Since securely, whilst I, although for many yet less faults strive hourly to repent me, I once loved her, and was to him entired. Although I pardon, heaven will find time to punish. I'll not stretch my just revenge so far. As once by babbling to make your brazen impudence to blush. Damn on, revenge too great, and to suppress your souls yet lower, without hope to rise, heap Ossa upon Pelion. You have made me to hate my very country, because here bred ne'er two such monsters. First I'll leave this house, and then my father's. Next I'll take my leave both of this clime and nation, travel till age snow upon this head. My passions now are inexpressible. I'll end them thus. Ill man, bad woman, your unheard of treachery, this unjust censure on a just man give, to seek out place where no such two can live.
Exit young Geraldine. We're going to go straight on to the next unit of action. It could be split into a separate scene, Act 4, Scene 4, maybe not. Enter Dalavill as in a nightgown, wife in night attire as coming from bed.
A happy morning now betide you, lady, to equal the contents of a sweet night.
It hath been to my wish and your desire, and this your coming by pretended love unto my sister Prudentilla, cuts of suspicion of any such converse betwixt you and me.
Hath been wisely carried.
One thing troubles me.
What's that, my dearest?
Why, your friend Geraldine should on the sudden thus absent himself. Has he had, think you, no intelligence of these our private meetings?
No, on my soul. For therein hath my brain exceeded yours. I, studying to engross you to myself, of his continued absence have been cause. Yet he of your affection, no way jealous, or of my friendship. How the plot was cast, you at our better leisure shall partake. The air grows cold. Have care unto your health. Suspicious eyes are o'er us, that yet sleep, but with the dawn will open. Sweet, retire you to your warm sheets. I now to fill my own that have this night been empty.
You advise well. Oh, might this kiss dwell ever on thy lips in my remembrance.
Not, I pray, whilst day brights night, and night assumes the day. Good morrow.
And exit. So, I think all ambiguities are now removed from the text. I think we can safely say that Dalavill is definitely having relations with Wincott's wife, and she is a perfectly happy, willing compatriot in that, and that his visits to Sister Prue, it was contracted actually in the text originally, and I thought maybe that was an error, but actually I think it probably was my sister Prue, unto my sister Prue cuts of suspicion rather than Prudentilla, because it definitely doesn't really scan either way, but it's slightly more manageable that way. So yeah, we have lots of things going on here. This is a very busy scene. It sort of comes in 3 units. We've got Wincott and young Geraldine sort of having a sort of a meet up and talking through their the reasons why, and coming to a new set of arrangements. And then young Geraldine left alone, exits, comes back in again. And then we have this moment of disambiguation to follow. Though, of course, it's all sort of part of what young Geraldine says in the second part of the long speech. I particularly love the moment, but my sword, I left it. I left. Oh, you can see him reaching for his sword, and he oh no, bugger! I left it behind.
And that's a good thing.
I didn't think to bring it. Do you hate when you leave your mobile phone and your sword lying around? So again, there's an interesting question of tone here, because this is the dark night of his soul, and it doesn't turn horribly violent because he's forgotten to bring his sword with him. Lynn, then Aliki.
Well, now I feel sad because this is not how I wanted it to turn out. This is not the kind of person I wanted Wincott's wife and Geraldine's former sweetheart to be. So I'm sad about that. The other thing that I found striking about this scene is like, what a square John young Geraldine is turning out to be. He does, of course, have the impulse at first to murder them both, but just as a slight hiccup in that, it's like, oh, I don't have my sword with me, and it's sort of like deep breath. Well, it's a good thing, because now that I've thought about it, let heaven revenge. I'm not going to intervene, but I'm so crushed by this, I'm just going to leave the country. I don't want to deal with this anymore. So he doesn't say, oh, I don't have my sword with me, but I'm going to plot, but I'm going to like poison them, or I'm going to go get it, or whatever. That when that impulse passes, he does the most noble thing that he can think of, which is to just remove himself from the situation. So, I mean, he continues to be someone I think we're meant to really admire, although I don't know how realistic somebody that decent could be. But yeah, I'm sad about the way the plot's going.
I don't know. I found it all very exciting, I think that's what I really like about that is you can have a moment of anger, and this is an argument for weapon control of all kinds. Is that you can come out the other side of sudden bursts of anger, but if you happen to be holding a bloody great weapon, then you might give into that impulse. So there's nice that he has second thoughts and goes down a different path. Aliki.
Yeah, I'm not sure that he's meant to be entirely admirable. I'm going to follow Rob's suggestion that the tone is just a little bit too mocking of him for that. But what a delightful speech. I lost track of it a bit towards the end. There were a few lines where I wasn't entirely sure what I was saying for a bit. But what a great exercise for an actor, because he goes through this whole, I will be good. Oh no, I'm bored now. I'll just think about my love. She's right there. It's so mean not to visit her. I'll visit her. Oh no, betrayal, sword. Shit, no sword. God, I know, I'll go traveling. I mean, what a great little character sketch. That's a whole play's worth in a speech. Lovely.
And it's interesting because you could have had the scene that followed in between that speech. And I don't think that that's an error in the text. I think there is something about it allowing the actor to have that journey and have that moment without breaking it up. So it's an interesting set of choices there, because of course, I don't know what the audience might have. Maybe the audience hears ha 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 or something, giggles off or something. But again, it's kept contained. Sarah.
Yeah, I don't think it's I think it's absolutely deliberate. It's a good bit of structuring, because in fact the fact that he hears her through the door, I mean, obviously, depending on how you staged it, you could hear when he talks about hearing the male voice, you could hear Dalavill's voice, but actually, what he's hearing isn't necessarily what's actually happening. That's what I was thinking, actually. It was like there's that ambiguity if you don't get the scene between the wife and Dalavill until afterwards. There's still this thing of like, oh, is he actually, because all through the scenes yesterday with Bess, it's like, is that true, or is it has she just been paid to say this? You know, like what's true and what isn't? It's like I was still finding my way through it, and it did occur to me at this point that, you know, it could be that what he's actually hearing is Wincott and his wife. They might just be having a, you know, little bit of a chat. And, you know, in a different play, that's what it would have been. It would have been he'd have heard Wincott, he'd have mistaken him in his jealous rage for Dalavill, he'd have gone in and killed them both, and that would have been the tragedy. But, you know, that doesn't happen. And then we do get the confirmation that it is, in fact, Dalavill and wife who are having the affair. But the very fact that that scene comes after, it just keeps the audience hanging on just a little bit longer, because that ambiguity has kept us going all through the play up until this point.
And one of the real tragedies here, the real kicker, is that the reason why Dalavill is able to sleep with Wincott's wife is because Wincott has deliberately pretended to be ill to sleep in a different bed so that he can have a fun evening with young Geraldine. And it's just like, God, that's gotta hurt. You've been used as the excuse for him to have an affair, have his particular tryst. Ooh. Stephen, were you wanting to leap in?
No, well, Sarah said it all, really. I was just full of admiration for the structural choices that were made there. So, yeah, Sarah said it all.
Excellent. Well, let's go into a different plot. Let's go to the B plot. Or is it the A plot? I don't think it is the B. I think it's the B plot. Act 4, Scene 5, depending on how you're counting. Enter Reignald, young Lionel, Bellander, Scaffer, Rioter, and 2 gallants. Reignald with a key in his hand.
How is the gold delivery? Through this back gate, shift yourselves. I hear on prison all.
But tell me, how shall we dispose ourselves? We are so far to seek now at the first. What is to reprieve us for a few hours, and now to suffer? Better had it been at first to have stood the trial, so by this we might have passed our penance.
Briony, be a Bellander. I didn't notice.
Sweet Reginald.
Honest rogue.
If now thou failest us, then we are lost forever.
The same sweet Reginald and his honest rogue have been the burgess, under whose protection you all this while have lived, free from arrests. But now the sessions of my powers broke up, and you exposed to actions, warrants, writs, for all the hellish rabble are broke loose of sergeants, sheriffs, and bailiffs.
God as heaven.
God as heaven.
I tell you as it is. Nay, I myself that have been your protector, now is subject to every varlet's pestle. For you know how I am engaged with you. At whose suit, sir?
All start.
Why did
thou start?
I was afraid some catchpole stood behind me to clap me on the shoulder.
No such thing. Yet I protest thy fear did fright us all.
I knew your guilty consciences.
Oh, brain left?
No crotchet for my sake.
One kiss then, sweet. Thus shall my crotchets and your kisses meet.
Nay, tell us what to trust to.
Lodge yourselves in the next tavern. There's the cash that's left. Go, health it freely for my good success. Nay, drown it all, let not a test escape, to be consumed in rot gut. I've begun, and I will stand the period.
Bravely spoke.
Or perish in the conflict.
Worthy Reignald.
Well, if he now come off well, fox you all. Go, call for wine. For singly of myself, I will oppose all danger that I charge you. When I shall faint or find myself distressed, if I, like brave Orlando, wind my horn, make haste unto my rescue.
And die in it.
Well hast thou spoken, my noble Charlemagne, with these thy peers about thee.
May God's speed attend thee still.
And still crowns the deed.
And they all exit. I'm just going to pause there. It may or may not effectively be a scene shift. What Reignald's doing here is he's setting himself up with Rent-A-Mob. I assume this is just his emergency panic button. That's how I'm reading this. Is that everything's coming to a head, and he might need some chaos and confusion to get out of whatever it's in. That's what I feel this is setting up. I don't know if I misinterpreted that. Any brief thoughts on that little bit? Am I sort of in the right ballpark there? I like his forward planning. It's like he's going, he's investing some, presumably the money he's nicked from his master, in getting some people in a state where they may not be making the best life choices. That seems to be the plan. Okay, Alan.
Yeah, sending the party animals off to the pub doesn't necessarily seem like such a good idea, because God knows what they're going to say in their cups.
Well, that's the important thing here. Is he's told them, if I call out, you must come out and help me. So, he wants them in a state where they're going to be a bit rowdy, I assume. That seems to be the plan. I'm not saying it's a good plan. I'm just saying it's a plan. Okay, let's move on to what we're calling out for scene 6. Enter old Lionel and the first owner of the house.
Sir, your threats nor warrants can fright me. My honesty and innocency's known, always to have been unblemished. Would you could as well approve your own integrity, as I shall doubtless acquit myself of this surmised murder.
Rather surrender the price I paid, or take into thy hands this haunted mansion, or I'll prosecute my wrongs even up to the utmost of the law, which is no less than death.
I'll answer all, old Lionel, both to thy shame and scorn. This for thy menaces.
Enter the clown.
This is the house, but where's the noise that was wont to be in't? I am sent hither to deliver a note to 2 young gentlemen that here keep revel rout. I remember it, since the last massacre of meat that was made in't. But it seems that the great storm that was raised then is chased now. I have other notes to deliver. One to Master Ricott, and I shall think on them all in order. My old master makes a great feast for the parting of young Master Geraldine, who is presently upon his departure for travel, and the better to grace it, hath invited many of his neighbours and friends. Where will be old Master Geraldine, his son, and I cannot tell how many. This is strange. The gates shut up at this time of day. Belike they are all drunk and laid to sleep. If they be, I'll wake them with a murrain.
He knocks.
What desperate fellow is this, that ignorant of his own danger thunders at these gates?
Ho! Reignald! Riotous Reignald! Revelling Reignald!
What madness does possess thee, honest friend? Touch that hammer's handle!
What madness doth possess thee, honest friend, to ask me such a question?
Nay, stir not you.
Not I. The game begins.
Well, how dost thou? Art thou well?
Yes, very well, I thank you. How do you, sir?
No alteration, change about thee?
Not so much change about me at this time as to change you a shilling into 2 teasters.
Yet I advise thee, fellow, for thy good, stand further from the gate.
And I advise thee, friend, for thine own good, stand not betwixt me and the gate, but give me leave to deliver my errand. Ho! Reignald! You mad rascal!
In vain thou thunderest at those silent doors, where no man dwells to answer, saving ghosts, furies, and sprites.
Ghosts. Indeed, there's been much walking in and about the house after midnight.
Strange noise oft heard.
Yes, terrible noise, but none of the neighbours could take any rest for it. I have heard it myself.
You hear this? Here's more witness,
Very well, sir.
which you shall dearly answer. Whooping
And hollowing,
and shouting,
and crying out to the whole house rung again,
which thou hast heard.
oftener than I have toes and fingers.
Thou wilt be deposed of this.
I'll be sworn to it, and that's as good.
Very good still. Yet you are innocent. Shall I entreat thee, friend, to avouch as much hereby to the next justice?
I'll take my soldier's oath on't,
Soldier's oath, what's that?
my corporal oath. And you know, sir, a corporal is an office belonging to a soldier.
Yet you are clear. Murder will come to light.
We're going to pause there because there's a lot of good stuff going on here. So yeah, I love this. Old Lionel's going, well, I hate to say, when you sold me this house, there wasn't anything in the documentation about ghosts. And I'm going to get the law on you, the utmost law, which is no less than death. Now, I was not aware of the legal precedents for selling houses. I did write a story years ago. I did a ghost story show where it was all about the sort of property documentation, because there were new laws going in at the time about, you know, the kind of thing you have to have in information packs for properties. And I was going, you have to pull in the horrible murders and things and stuff. And I did a story all about that, and I'm sort of going, oh, it's been done very, very, very early, much earlier than I expected. I didn't think it was original for a second, but it's nice to see this complaint going all the way, and the two plots have finally met. We have the one household is inviting another household to a meal. That is the full extent of the plots meeting so far. I love all this stuff about, have you heard the strange noises? And of course, one's talking about the ghost and the other's talking about a party. Which you shall dearly answer. Whooping. Excellent use of the word. Any thoughts from the room on this little episodette? We're still mid-scene, but throw in your thoughts. Stephen?
I love the callback as well to the poison door knocker thing, which is the clown has got no idea what it's about, but you remember. That whole thing of structurally, again, the callback, I really like that, because the clown's responses to all of this are just going to be gold, aren't they?
Yes, because he's shouting, riotous Reignald, etc. And which is called old Lionel. Lionel sees what he's doing, and it's just, don't touch the thing. And it's an excellent callback. It's really structurally nicely done. Any other thoughts, Alan?
And the cue for the drama there, the corporal oath. It's definitely got to be a boom tish, hasn't it, on that one?
Yeah.
I don't get that.
Corporal and corporeal. Bodily and...
Is there such a thing as a corporeal oath?
Yes, you swear on your body, which is corporeal. Same root as corpse.
No, I get the etymology. I've just never heard the term.
I have to say it didn't land for me particularly. Lynn, were you waving? No. Okay. Well, let's not lose the flow. So, clown business, old Lionel. Enter Robin, the old serving man. I'm not saying that's how he should be. I'm just saying enter Robin.
So will your gullery too?
They say my old master's come home. I'll see if he will turn me out of doors as the young man has done. I have laid rods in piss for somebody. Scape Reignald as he can, and with more freedom than I dost late, I boldly now dare knock.
More madmen yet! I think since my last voyage half the world's turned frantic. What dost thou mean? Up Longstaffe to be blasted?
Oh, sir, you are welcome home. 'Twas time to come ere all was gone to havoc.
my old servant. Before I shall demand of further business, resolve me why thou thunderest at these doors, where thou knowest none inhabits.
Are they gone, sir? 'Twas well. Yet they have left the house behind, for all the furniture to a bare bench, I am sure, is spent and wasted.
Where's my son, that Reignald posting for him with such speed brings him not from the country?
Country, sir? Ha! 'Tis a thing they know not. Here they feast, dice, drink, and drab. The company they keep, cheaters and roaring lads, and these attended by bawds and queens. Your son hath got a strumpet, on whom he spends all that you're sparing left, and here they keep court, to whose damned abuses Reignald gives all encouragement.
Stay. No living soul hath for these 6 months' space here entered. The house stood desolate.
Last week, I am sure, so late, and t'other day, such revels were here kept.
And by my son?
Yes, and his servant, Reignald.
And this house not at all haunted?
Safe, sir, with such sprites.
Enter Master Ricott.
This murderer will come out.
I see an happy time. Here comes my neighbour, of whom he bought this mansion. He, I am sure, more amply can resolve me. Freitas, what sums of monies have you late received of my young son?
Of him? None, I assure you.
Well, of my servant Reignald.
But devise what to call less than nothing, and that sum I will confess received.
Oh, pray, sir, be serious. I do confess myself indebted to you £100.
You may do well to pay it then, for here's witness sufficient of your words.
Well, I speak no more than what I purpose. Just so much I owe you, and ere I sleep will tender.
I shall be as ready to receive it, and as willing as you can be to pay it.
But, provided you will confess £700 received beforehand of my son.
But by your favour, why should I yield 700 received of them I never dealt with? Why? For what? What reason, what condition, where or when should such a sum be paid me?
Oh, why? For this bargain. And for what? This house. The reason? Because you sold it. The conditions? And such as were agreed between you. Where and when? That only hath escaped me.
Madness all.
Was I not brought to take free view thereof as of mine own possession?
I confess, your servant told me you had found out a wife fit for your son, and that you meant to desired to take a friendly view of mine to make it your example. But for selling, I tell you, sir, my wants be not so great to change my house to coin.
Sir, spare your anger and turn it into pity. Neighbours and friends, I am quite lost. Was never man so fooled, and by a wicked servant. Shame and blushing will not permit to tell the manner how, lest I be made ridiculous to all. My fears are to inherit what gets left. He hath made my son away.
That's my fear too.
Friends, as you would commiserate a man deprived at once both of his wealth and son, and in his age, by one I ever tended more like a son than servant, imagining my case were yours, have feeling of my griefs and help to apprehend them. Furnish me with cords and fetters. I will lay him safe in prison, within prison.
We'll assist you.
And I.
And all. but not to do the least hurt to my old friend Reignald.
Oh, his legs will be as nimble as his brain. 'Twill be difficult to seize the slave.
Enter Reignald with a horn in his pocket. They withdraw behind the arras after this line.
Yes, your endeavours. Pray peace. Here he comes.
But we'll just pause before he comes, because I think we should discuss the setup of the next. So the House of Cards has come tumbling down as the truth comes out. But the truth has been distorted somewhat in old Lionel's mind, because he's now leapt to the conclusion that his son's been murdered by the servant. So he's now quite determined to tie up and throw Reignald into prison. So, Stephen, I think, I don't know whether you said this on or off camera. I forget. I think it was off camera before we started. You were asking what were the stakes for Reignald.
Yeah.
And they've suddenly raised quite high. Yeah, Stephen and then Lynn.
I think Lynn was first.
Oh, Lynn.
There's also something almost kind of sweet about old Lionel. He can't believe that it's actually his son. It's your son. It's your son who's the rioter. It's like it's like he can't get his head around the fact that his son's a party boy. No, my son must be dead. Like, honey.
I think he'd probably be happier if he found out that, I think the truth will probably hurt him a lot more than this.
There you go.
Stephen.
I just did not see that turn coming. I'd been playing him as this kind of sort of angry old idiot, and then actually, with a skilled performer, you've got a real pathos introduced here. He's a coffin dodger. He's just about holding it together. He's old, and everything has just fallen apart, and he's been revealed as this ridiculous old man in front of his neighbours. And that's a kind of real moment of pathos, I think. Or it certainly could be if it was done right. And I really, really did not see that coming. I don't think there was anything, signalling that earlier. He was quite easy to play. It's just this kind of cantankerous old git. And then there's this lovely little kind of Easter egg from the writer in the middle there, if you have the wit to spot it.
Yeah, and it again, it's one of these things that actually the tone that the production decides to push for does shift the tenor of the play. It's not automatically. I mean, you could just play it as very straightforward farce, but in conjunction also with the slightly sadder main plot, pushing for a bit more pathos in this more overtly farcical plot is very appropriate. I'm really interested to see how this plays with an audience now, because I think there's a really big range of possibilities for this. Stephen again.
And just to say as well, that to add into the kind of layers there, he thinks he's manipulating the clown as well, doesn't he? He's kind of like, he's behaving as though he's trapped him into making a deposition without telling him what it's all about. And it's the most ludicrous kind of thing, So we've also got that layer going on there of a really, really incompetent version of what we've seen being done for real by Reignald.
Aliki.
So both plots have these old men who are being fooled by everybody, but who are, okay, maybe a bit idiotic, but not bad in any sense, not particularly evil. And I rather wonder if Heywood, who was getting on surely by this time, kind of thought to himself that maybe the old man shouldn't always be the butt of the joke in a farce without a little bit of sympathy for him. And I have a staging question. Where's the arras? I thought we were outside. What arras?
Well, I don't know. I don't know whether they're. I assume yes. I think you're right. They must be outside. I assume the arras is more stage property interior. The upstage. If there's an upstage central position, that could be a curtain. So I think that's stage property rather than real world property. Well, diegetic property. If that makes. Can you have a diegetic property? I suppose you can. Yes. Yes, that makes sense. Sorry, Alan.
I think actually the way I understood it was you're actually in the entrance hall of the property.
No, they've been knocking on the gate. They've been knocking on the gate because it's the thing, they can't approach the property because it's haunted. They've only just had it disclosed that it's not. So they're definitely outside. because it's the gatepost as well. So I don't know what distance the gatepost is from the actual door. I think that's mentioned in the actual stage directions. I could be wrong. Or whether that's an inference that has become exaggerated. Anyway, yes, they hide behind something. Stage producer, a small shrubbery, if you will. Anyway, Reignald has entered with his horn in his pocket. No sniggering at the back there.
My heart misgives, for 'tis not possible, but as in all these windings and indents, I shall be found at last. I'll take that course that men both troubled and affrighted do, heap doubt on doubt, and as combustions rise, try if from many I can make my peace, and work mine own atonement.
Stand you close, be not seen, but at your best advantage, hand him and bind him fast, for as I dissemble as if I knew nothing.
I suspect and find there's trouble in my master's looks. Therefore I must not trust myself too far with these fingers.
Reignald!
Worshipful sir!
What says my son? In the country?
Tomorrow, early in the morning, he'll attend your pleasure, and do as all such duteous children ought, demand your blessing, sir.
Ah, well, 'tis well.
Do you not like his countenance?
Reignald, I suspect the honesty and good meaning of my neighbour here, old Master Ricott. Meeting him but now and having some discourse about the house, he makes all strange and tells me in plain terms he knows of no such matter.
Tell me that, sir.
I tell thee as it is. Nor that such moneys took up as use were ever tendered him on any such condition.
I cannot blame your worship to be pleasant, knowing at what an under rate we bought it. But you ever were a most merry gentleman. Is that young Lionel or is it old Lionel?
Oh, it's an old line, isn't it?
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's an old Lionel, yeah. Sorry.
Impudent slave. But Reignald, he not only does deny it, but offers to depose himself and servants. No such thing ever was.
Now, heaven, to see what this world's grown to. I will make him.
Nay more, the man will not confess the murder.
Which both shall dearly answer. You have a warrant for him already. But for the other, sir, if he deny it, he had better.
Dear gentlemen, softly, 'tis a fit time to take him.
I discover the ambush that's laid for me.
Come nearer, Reignald.
First, sir, resolve me one thing, among other merchandise, bought in your absence by your son and me, we engrossed a great commodity of combs. And how many thoughts, think you?
Oh, well, you might buy some of the bones of fishes, some of beasts, ox combs, and ivory combs.
But besides these, we have for horses, sir, mane combs and curry combs. Now, sir, for men, we have head combs, beard combs, and coxcombs too. Take view of them at your pleasure, whilst I, for my part, I thus bestow myself.
They all appear with cords and shackles whilst he goes up.
Well said, Reignald. Notably put off, Reignald. Look to thyself, Reignald.
Why dost thou climb thus?
Only to practice the nimbleness of my arms and legs, ere they prove your cords and fetters.
Why to that place?
Why? Because, sir, 'tis your own house that's been my harbour long, and now it must be my sanctuary. Dispute now, and I'll answer.
Villain, what devilish meaning hast thou in to challenge me of murder?
Oh, sir, the man you killed is alive at this present to justify it. I am, quoth he, a transmarine by birth.
Why challenge me receipt of monies and to give abroad that I had sold my house?
Why? Because, sir, Could I have purchased houses at that rate? I had meant to have bought all London.
Yes, and Middlesex too. And I would have been thy half, Reignald.
Oh, as a great my wrongs insufferable. First, to fright me from mine own dwelling, till they had consumed the whole remainder of the little left. Besides, out of my late stock got at sea, discharge the clamorous usurer, make me accuse this man of murder, be it charge of warrants, and challenging this, my worthy neighbour, of forswearing sums he never yet received. Fool me, to think my son had spent it all, had by this thrift bought land, aye, and him too, to open all the secrets of his house to me, a stranger. Oh, thou insolent villain! What to all these canst answer?
Guilty. Guilty.
To my son's death, what thou slave?
Not guilty.
Produce him then. In the meantime, honest friends, get ladders.
Yes, and come down in your own ropes.
I'll fetch a piece and shoot him.
So the warrant in my master's pocket will serve for my murder, and ever after shall my ghost haunt this house.
And I will say, like Reignald, this ghost and I am friends.
Being faggots, I'd set fire upon the house rather than disendure.
To burn houses is felony, and I'll not out till I be fired out. But since I'm besieged thus, I'll summon supplies unto my rescue.
And he winds his horn, and all the rioters and young Lionel, etc., come storming out of the pub.
Before you chide, first hear me, next your blessing that on my knees I beg. I have but done like misspent youth, which after wit dear bought turns his eye inward, sorry and ashamed. These things in which I have offended most, had I not proved, I should have thought them still essential things, delights perdurable, which now I find mere shadows, toys and dreams. Now hated more than erst I doted on. Best natures are soonest wrought on, such was mine, as I the offences, so the offenders throw here at your feet, to punish as you please. You have but paid so much as I have wasted, to purchase to yourself a thrifty son, which I from henceforth vow.
See what fathers are. They can 3 years offences and foul ones too, thus in a minute pardon, and thy faults upon myself chastise in these my tears. Ere this submission I cast thee off, rise in my new adoption, but for these.
The one you have nothing to do with all, here's his ticket for his discharge. Another for you, sir, to summon you to my master's feast, for you and you, where I charge you all to appear upon his displeasure and your own apparels.
This is my friends. The other one I loved, only because they have been dear to him. Now will strive to be more dear to you, vouchsafe their pardon.
Oh dear to me indeed, for I have paid for it soundly. Yet for the sake I am atoned withal. Only that wanton, her and her company abandoned quite. So doing, we are friends.
A just condition, and willingly subscribe to.
Yeah, but for that villain, I am now devising what shame, what punishment remarkable to inflict on him.
My master, have I laboured, plotted and contrived, and all this while for you? And will you leave me the whip and stocks, not mediate my peace?
Come down.
Not till my pardon's sealed. I'll rather stand here, like a statue in the forefront of your house, forever, like the picture of Dame Fortune before the Fortune Playhouse.
If I have here but any friend amongst you, join with me in this petition.
Good sir, for my sake, I resolved you truly concerning whooping, the noise, the walking, and the sprites, and for a need, can show you a ticket for him too.
I impute my wrongs rather to knavish cunning than least pretended malice.
What he did was but for his young master, I'll allow it, rather as sports of wit than injuries. No other, pray esteem them.
Even as freely as you forget my quarrels made with you, raised from the errors first begot by him, I here remit all free. I now am calm, but had I seized upon him in my spleen...
That, therefore, this was my invention for policies, the art still of prevention.
Come down then, Reignald. First on your hands and feet, and then on your knees to your master. Now, gentlemen, what do you say to your inviting to my master's feast?
We will attend him.
Do I love to break good company, for Master Wincott is my worthy friend.
And re-enter Reignald from above.
The old acquaintance. Oh, thou crafty wag string, and couldst thou dost delude me? We are friends. No, gentlemen, let's not what's here to pass in your least thoughts disable my estate. This, my last voyage, hath made all things good, and surplus too. Be that your comfort, son. Well, Reignald, no more.
I was the fox, but from henceforth will no more the cox can put on your bait.
Let's walk, gentlemen.
And they exit. It's isn't it Reynard the fox? So close enough. I mean, it sort of explains half his name there, if it's setting up for a not quite half pun thing. Lots of really nice things here. I love the fact that Reynald sort of basically just climbs up to the highest level he can. I don't know how, and it seems to be quite an active climb. Though maybe he walks down, if he's climbed up to a balcony, maybe he walks down the steps, because it says enter later on. So it might be that, he's climbed up in an athletic display, but then he just walks down the steps afterwards. That kind of thing. I don't know. I'm inferring. So they go for Reignald. He runs away. The clown gets to do the callback line. This goes to I Am Friends from last time, which I really like. Though, as Aliki pointed out in the chat, doesn't technically make sense, but it's a good line. Who wants to leap in? Aliki.
Well, the play's not over, so I could be wrong, but once more we have vengeance deferred. Cooler heads have prevailed, and bloody vengeance will not be enacted, which is interesting.
Stephen, then Lynn.
I like the way that Reignald, he kind of, it's a sort of Butch and Sundance moment, isn't it? Where, okay, right. Can you name a lot of combs? Well, yes, I can name a lot of combs. Yes. What about coxcombs? I really like that kind of turn there. This kind of magnificent defiance after all this kind of panicking and Basil faultying and losing their heads, and he just turns around and kind of outwits him for maybe the final time. It's just really cleverly done, I think.
Yeah, I also just love the way that Lionel enters and immediately just goes, "Before you chide." I mean,
he knows that he's up.
It's immediately. It's like just
Hear me out.
Yeah. Before you said, and I also love the way that Reignald says, "I'm not coming down until I've got my pardon. I'm staying up here because you bring ladders." And they're immediately sort of indicating, and a noose as well. Let's talk down the situation. Lynn.
Yeah, there is something about this scene that sort of evokes that kind of the sort of benign world that the play was suggesting in the very first scene. That this is a play where sort of goodwill and grace are going to prevail whenever they can. So I kind of like that. Yeah, and it's sort of an anticlimax, but it's sort of hilarious. It's just like when all the poo hits the fan, Lionel just has to throw up his hands and go, "Oh, all right, I forgive you." and luckily actually the fact that Lionel suspected that his son was dead is actually good for Reignald in the end, because it's like there's a joke that circulates in many forms where the college student writes home and says, "Oh, well, I got my girlfriend pregnant and we've like moved in together and I dropped out of school and I'm like working in a bar now." And then it says, "Just kidding, but I am failing 2 classes. I wanted to put it in perspective." So it's once he finds out that his son's alive and healthy, everything else doesn't seem so egregious because his son, who he clearly loves, and who I suspect actually loves him back. He's alive. Oh, well, it's only money, no harm, no foul. Behave yourself from now on.
Yes, get rid of the friends. Get rid of the friends, and I'm sure you will, this will be a lesson that you have learned. This is a good learning experience. I'm also just interested in just the little historical note that, he's going to stay there like the picture, once having climbed up, like the picture of Dame Fortune before the Fortune Playhouse. So now I don't know if we know what that particular notice board outside the Fortune Playhouse looked like, beyond that it was Dame Fortune. But you can just see that Reignald will be enacting the pose of that. And that I quite like. So and we're at the Cockpit, so this is a different theatre space. So it's a nice little throw in. Completely meaningless to us today. We'd have to go. I'm staying here like the Angel of the North. That I suppose would be, or something like that. It would be the modern thing. But yeah, okay. We have one more scene to go. Act 5, Scene 1. I think that's fine. I don't think it's split into any other units of action. So, are we ready? Are you ready for it? Act 5, Scene 1. Enter old Geraldine and young Geraldine.
Son, let me tell you, you are ill-advised and doubly to be blamed by undertaking unnecessary travel, grounding no reason for such a rash and giddy enterprise. What profit aim you at? You have not reaped. What novelty affords the Christian world, of which your view hath not participated in a full measure? Can you either better your language or experience? Your self-will hath only purpose to deprive the father of a loved son, and many noble friends of your much-wished acquaintance.
Oh, dear sir, do not, I do entreat you, repent you of your free grant, which with such care and study I have so often laboured for.
Say that may be dispensed with. Show me reason why you desire to steal out of your country like some malefactor that had forfeited his life and freedom. Here's a worthy gentleman hath, for your sake, invited many guests to his great charge, only to take of you a parting leave. You send him word you cannot, after you may not come. Had not my urgence, almost compulsion, driven you to his house, the unkindness might have forfeited your love, and raced you from his will, in which he hath given you a fair and large estate. Yet you, of all this strangeness, show no sufficient ground.
Then understand the ground thereof took its first birth from you. 'Twas you first charged me to forbear the house, and that upon your blessing. Let it not then offend you, sir, if I so great a charge have strived to keep so strictly.
Me, perhaps, you may appease, and with small difficulty, because a father. But how satisfy their dear and, on your part, unmerited love? But this, your last obedience, may salve all. We now grow near the house,
whose doors to me appear as horrid as the gates of hell. Where shall I borrow patience, or from whence?
Enter Wincott, Wincott's wife, Ricott, the 2 Lionels, first owner, Dalavill, Prudentilla, Reignald, and Rioter. Hopefully there won't be too many clashes in that lot.
to give a meeting to this viperous brood of friend and mistress.
You have entertained me with a strange discourse of your man's knavish wit, but I rejoice that in your safe return all ends so well. Most welcome you, and indeed all, to whom I am bound that at so short a warning, thus friendly, you will deign to visit me.
Seems my absence have begot some sport. Thank my kind servant here.
Not so much worth, sir.
No, though their riots tripped at my estate, they have not quite yet o'erthrown it.
But see, gentlemen, these whom we most expected come at length. This I proclaim the master of the feast, in which to express my bounty of my love, I'll show myself no niggard.
Your choice favours I still taste in abundance.
Methinks it would not misbecome me, sir, to chide your absence, that have made yourself to us so long a stranger.
He turns away, sad, as not being minded.
Pardon me, sir, that have not yet, since your return from sea, voted the least fit opportunity to entertain you with a kind salute.
Most kindly, sir, I thank you. Methinks, friend, you should expect green rushes to be strowed after such discontinuance.
Mistress Prue, I have not seen you long, but greet you thus. May you be lady of a better husband than I expect a wife.
I like that greeting. Nay, enter, gentlemen. Dinner perhaps is not yet ready, but the time we stay will find some fresh discourse to spend away.
And everyone exits apart from Dalavill.
Not speak to me. Nor once vouchsafe an answer, but slate me with a poor and base neglect. No, not so much as cast an eye on her, or least regard, though in a seeming show she courted a reply. Twixt him and her, nay, him and me, this was not wont to be. If she hath brain to apprehend as much as I have done, she'll quickly find it out. Now, as I live, as our affections meet, so our conceits. She hath singled him to some such purpose. I'll retire myself, not interrupt their conference.
And exit Dalavill as young Geraldine and wife enter.
You are sad, sir.
I know no cause.
Then can I show you some? Who could be other ways, to leave a father so careful, and each way so provident, to leave so many and such worthy friends, to abandon your own country? These are some. Nor do I think you can be much the merrier for my sake.
Now your tongue speaks oracles, for all the rest are nothing. 'Tis for you, only for you I cannot.
So I thought. Why then have you been all this while so strange? Why will you travel, suing a divorce betwixt us of a love inseparable? For here shall I be left as desolate unto a frozen, almost widowed bed, warmed only in that future, stored in you. For who can in your absence comfort me?
Shall my oppressed sufferance yet break forth into impatience, or endure her more?
But since by no persuasion, no entreats, your settled obstinacy can be swayed, though you seem desperate of your own dear life, have care of mine, for it exists in you. Oh, sir, should you miscarry, I were lost, lost and forsaken. Then, by our past vows, and by this hand once given me, by these tears which are but springs begetting greater floods, I do beseech thee, my dear Geraldine, look to thy safety, and preserve thy health. Have care into what company you fall, travel not late, and cross no dangerous seas. For till heavens bless me in thy safe return, how will this poor heart suffer?
I had thought long since the sirens had been all destroyed, but one of them I find survives in her. She almost makes me question what I know, an heretic unto my own belief. Oh, thou mankind's seducer.
What? No answer?
Yes, thou hast spoke to me in showers, I will reply in thunder. Thou adulteress, thou hast more poison in thee than the serpent who was the first that did corrupt thy sex, the devil.
To whom speaks the man?
To thee, falsest of all that ever man termed fair, hath impudence so steeled thy smooth, soft skin it cannot blush or sin. So obdurate thy heart it doth not quake and tremble. Search thy conscience. There thou shalt find 1,000 clamorous tongues to speak as loud as mine doth.
Save from yours, I hear no noise at all.
Play the doctor to open thy deaf ears. Monday, the 9th of the last month. Canst thou remember that? That night more black in my abhorred sin than in the gloomy darkness. That the time.
Monday?
Wouldst thou the place know, thy polluted chamber, so often witness of my sinless vows? Wouldst thou the person, one not worthy name, yet torment thy guilt, thee soul, the more I'll tell him thee, that monster Dalavill. Wouldst thou your bawd know? Midnight, that the hour, the very words thou spake. Now, what would Geraldine say if he saw us here? To which was answered, Tosh, he's a coxcomb fit to be so fooled. No blush? What, no faint fever on thee yet? How hath thy black sins changed thee, thou Medusa, whose hairs that late appeared like golden wires now crawl with snakes?
And yet my glass, till now, ne'er told me so. Who gave you this intelligence?
Only he that, pitying such an innocency as mine, should by two such delinquents be betrayed, he brought me to that place by miracle, and made mine ear witness of all this.
I am undone.
But think what thou hast lost to forfeit me. I, notwithstanding these, so fixed was my love, and unutterable, I kept this from thy husband, nay, all ears, with thy transgressions smothering mine own wrongs, in hope of thy repentance.
Which begins thus, Lo, upon my knees.
Hush, bow to heaven, which thou hast most offended. Alas, save in such scarce unheard of treachery, most sinful like thyself, wherein, oh, wherein hath my unspotted and unbounded love deserved the least of these? Sworn to be made a stale for term of life, and all this for my goodness. Die, and die soon. Quit me of my oath, but prithee die repentant. Farewell, ever, 'tis thou, and only thou, hast banished me, both from my friends and country.
Oh, I am lost.
And enter Dalavill, but we'll find out what happens when he enters in a dramatic fashion in a moment. Young Geraldine, he's going on a journey. There's a party with all the rest of the cast brought on stage so that they can walk off stage again, and set the scene so that the two plot lines feel like they're vaguely connected in some way that they're clearly not. And so young Geraldine, I can forgive him losing his temper at this moment to a degree, because he is sort of constantly prompted. It's like, oh, tell me what's the matter, and it's but it's a bit much after a while, isn't it? It's a bit much. Thoughts on the room, Sarah?
This has been described at the top of the play as a tragi-comedy, so I'm assuming someone's going to buy it at some point. And all I can say is I hope, given how well structured this play has been so far, I really hope it's young Geraldine who's going to buy it and not the wife, because for tragedy to really work, you have to care about the tragic figure. You have to have had an insight into their feelings and their thoughts and their conflict and their inner anguish and their turmoil. Otherwise, you might as well just go home. And so for me, the tragic hero, the tragic character in this piece is young Geraldine, because he's the one whose thoughts we've had, and the wife seems to me to be kind of I mean, she's basically a plot device. She's like, you know, she's there to kind of undo him and make him question everything that he ever thought, and to, you know, send to hell all the warm fuzziness we had earlier. So I really hope, but yet again, I don't know. I've said this so many times about this play. I don't know where this is going. I'm just really hoping that he turns out to be the tragic hero, which will be very sad, obviously, because we like him and he's an upstanding guy. But like, if it turns out that the tragedy is you know, woman killed with kindness, and she's going to like repent, because I couldn't work out in that scene, and I was playing her, like whether she was actually genuinely repenting or whether she was like, oh shit, I've been found out. I need now to pretend, which would structurally, given how much or how little we've seen of her, would be a much, I assume that's the way it's going, but it's so ambiguous, this play. I mean, it's really beautifully done, but I just hope it's not going to fail me at the final hurdle.
Well, the thing about tragicomedy is people almost die, but they don't actually die. So everybody's
okay.
Safe. Yeah. Everybody's safe. You know, it might get close. I mean, this is why earlier he reaches for his sword and he left it at home. If it was a tragedy, he would have just run off stage and the wrong person would have got killed. That's how that scene would have probably gone.
Lynn... Well, then if it's a comedy, you know, harmony and all the rest of it, I hope Dalavill runs off with the wife and young Geraldine just goes to live with Wincott. Because, you know...
But it's, I say, tragic comedy, it's going to pull it out the back. And the thing is, actually, we haven't really encountered, because we've been going fairly chronologically in most of our readings, we've only got up to about, you know, 1603-ish, and then a smattering of stuff from the next few years. We haven't really encountered that much tragic comedy. We've encountered a few. You know, stuff this play is doing by 1624 will be, if not old hat, but very well established by this point. So there are sort of conventions, or you could almost say there are conventions now, by the time this play is written, that you haven't encountered that much. Lynn, then Stephen.
Yeah, Rob has pretty much said it. What I was thinking, that the tragic comedies with which I am most familiar are Beaumont and Fletcher, like King and No King, and the Sea Voyage and stuff like that. The tragedy is often in the past, but the resolution is typically comic. It's typically an upbeat, resolved kind of resolution. So I don't think anyone's gonna die. Maybe Dalavill. Kind of want him to.
He's about to come on stage. He's listened to everything.
Yeah. So so I don't think we're going to lose young Geraldine, but at this point it's hard to see how things are going to work out for him, because the love of his life has betrayed him. He's kind of got nowhere to go. So but yeah, so even though I'm pretty confident that he's going to survive, I'm still really curious how it all is going to resolve in the end.
And for, you know, structurally, you know, he opened the play by being an English traveller. I would like him to continue being an English traveller at the end of the play, so that it feels like there's more. Because frankly, the title of the play has been something of a disappointment, because the English nobody's gone anywhere. I was expecting something more travelogue-y than this, based on the title. I'd be a bit miffed. Stephen.
Yeah, I was thinking about this too. I mean, I love the ambiguity. But the remark about tragedy, that if people know the Changeling, you know, there's maybe a similar vibe to that, in the sense that T.S. Eliot very famously said of the Changeling that it's not a tragedy because nobody gives a shit when the main female character dies, because she's just bad. And the kind of feminist riposte to that is, well, let's try and see it from her point of view. And so, you know, this is the kind of tragedy of patriarchy. You know, she's married to this old guy. That's not working. She loves this young guy. She's stuck until the old guy dies. The young guy's got some kind of thing going on whereby he's, you know, making bargains with other men and, you know, saying he's not going to see her or whatever it is, you know. She's like, well, okay, the next time I get pregnant, I could die, you know, carpe diem. from her point of view, and we don't get her point of view. That's the thing. What we get is this guy losing his shit, big style, a big red flashing patriarchy sign at this point. And it depends on where you start from as an audience member, really. I think that the play very cleverly kind of keeps its cards to itself, at least at this point. She doesn't try and go, well, there's a space there for you to see it from her point of view, but you have to imagine it. Because what we get is this guy completely losing his shit and going, I hope you die. Actually, no, I don't. Just kidding. Hope you die soon. It's just, it's one for the actors, I think. You could imagine a production of this where she's kind of like, it's just this guy, I'm still your true love. I mean, I can imagine a really, really great actress performance here while he's doing all of that, which would give you a whole bunch of emotions other than you belong to this guy and you went off with that guy and therefore die, which is what we're being told.
Yes, I also like the detail of, it happened on... Do you remember Monday? Do you remember what happened on Monday? There's something about that that's slightly pathetic. I quite like that. Sarah, then Lynn.
Yeah, I take your point, Stephen. And, I mean, you're right. There is space there for that interpretation. And no doubt if I was directing this play, that's probably what I'd do with it. But what I find annoying and a little bit frustrating is that it's not there in the text. And I understand why it's not there in the text, because it does lead to this lovely ambiguity. But on the other hand, he has been so good at creating character in this play. The characterization has been so well developed. These people are so human, and we have all these lovely, gorgeous little human observations about them that bring them to life in such a great way. It's not like he's not capable of doing this, fleshing out characters, bringing them to life, but he has chosen not to with her. And yes, that creates ambiguity, which is great. And yes, it creates a space for a fantastic actor and a director who wants to take the play that way to create characterization for her. But the fact is, he's bloody well done it with everyone else, with all the other main characters, and he hasn't done it with her, and that is pissing me off. But maybe it's all going to happen, because we're not at the end of the play yet. But I'm looking at the scroll bar on my.
There is very little left. We've
literally, we can't have more than a page or two. So unless he's going to pull it out the bag at the last minute, I think I'm going to be a bit.
It does seem to be a deliberate absence. It does seem that this is about the men, and the wife, who is only ever called wife. She doesn't have a first name. She's Mistress Wincott, and that's all we got. Lynn, and then we do need to actually finish the play.
Yes, I have been thinking about the Changeling all along, because it has those two parallel, the madhouse plot and the tragedy, the love tragedy plot, which never really intersect. The madhouse plot is eminently excisable. I did not know that T.S. Eliot had said that about it, and I hate him now, because he could not be more wrong. What I don't care about is Beatrice Joanna's colorless square John husband. Don't care. I care about her and DeForest.
We haven't read it yet as a group, so don't tell them things. Don't spoil it.
Yeah. But anyway, but it is really different, because she is really developed in that play, and as Sarah was saying, you can take the wife a lot of different ways, but you have so little text to work with. It is frustrating.
Is this a lack of trust in the boy actors for this particular company at this particular time? Just a question I'm putting out there. I doubt it. I think that would be but we'd need to see what other writers are doing with this particular company at this particular time. We shall see what happens now in the rest of the play. Wife has sunk down. Enter Dalavill meeting young Geraldine going out.
How now? What's the business?
Go take her up, whom thou hast oft thrown down, villain.
Oh, that was no language from a friend. Too harsh an accent. How's this? My mistress thus low cast upon the earth, grovelling, breathless. Mistress, lady, sweet!
Oh, tell me if thy name be Geraldine, thy very looks will kill me.
View me well. I am no such man. See, I am Dalavill.
Thou art then a devil that presents before me my horrid sins, persuades me to despair when he, like a good angel sent from heaven, besought me of repentance. Swell, sick heart, even till thou burst the ribs that bound thee in. So there's one string cracked, flow, and flow high, even till thy blood distil out of mine eyes to witness my great sorrow.
Faint again? Some help within there. No attendant near. Thus to expire. In this I am more wretched than all the sweet fruition of her love before could make me happy.
Enter Wincott, old Geraldine, young Geraldine, the two Lionels, Ricott, owner, Prudentilla, Reignald, and the clown.
What was he clamored so loud to mingle with our mirth, with this terror and affright?
She's your wife. In these my arms expiring.
How?
My sister?
Support her, and by all means possible, provide for her dear safety.
See, she recovers.
Woman, look up.
Sir, your pardon. Convey me to my chamber. I am sick even to death. Away, thou sycophant, out of my sight. I have, besides thyself, too many sins about me.
My sweet mistress.
Storm's coming. I must provide for harbour.
Exit various people.
What strange and sudden alterations this? How quickly is this clear day overcast? But such and so uncertain are all things that dwell beneath the moon.
A woman's qualm, frailties that are inherent to her sex, soon sick and soon recovered.
Sorry, you're talking to
that's me
yourself.
again. If she is fair, I am a man more wretched in her loss than had I forfeited life and estate. She was so good a creature.
I the like suffered when I my wife brought unto her grave. So you, when you were first a widower. Come, arm yourself with patience.
These are casualties that are not new, but common.
Burying of wives as stale as shifting shifts, or for some servants to flout and gull their masters.
Best descend and see how her fit holds her.
Enter Prudentilla and clown.
Sir, my sister in these few lines commends her last to you, for she is now no more. What's therein writ, save heaven and you, none knows. This she desired you would take view of, and with these words expired.
Dead?
He hath made one then a free release of all the debts I owed her.
My fear is beyond pardon. Dalavill has played the villain, but for Geraldine he hath been each way noble. Love him still. My peace already I have made with heaven. Oh, be not you at war with me. My honor is in your hands to punish or preserve. I am now confessed, and only Geraldine hath wrought on me this unexpected good. The ink I write with, I'm reading a letter. I'm a moron. My fear is beyond pardon. Dalavill has played the villain, but for Geraldine, he hath been each way noble. Love him still. My peace already I have made with heaven. Oh, be not at war with me. My honor is in your hands to punish or preserve. I am now confessed, and only Geraldine has wrought on me this unexpected good. The ink I write with, I wish had been my blood to witness me repentance. Dalavill, where's he? Go seek him out.
I shall, sir.
Exit clown.
The wills of dead folks should be still obeyed. However false to me, I'll not reveal it. Where heaven forgives, I pardon, gentlemen. I know you all commiserate my loss. A little thought this feast to have been turned
Enter clown.
Into funeral. What news of him?
He went presently to the stable, put the saddle upon his horse, put his foot into the stirrup, clapped his spurs into his sides, and away he's galloped, as if he were to ride a race for a wager.
All our ill lucks go with him. Farewell, he. But all my best wishes wait on you as my chief friend. This meeting, that was made only to take of you a parting leave, shall now be made a marriage of our love, which none save only death shall separate.
It calls me from all travel, and from henceforth with my country I am friends.
The lands that I have left, you lend me for a short space of my life. As soon as heaven calls me, they call you Lord. First feast, and after mourn. We'll, like some gallants that bury thrifty fathers, think it no sin to wear black without, and other thoughts within.
And they exit. Apologies, everyone, for slightly misleading you earlier.
Slightly.
We have actually read tragi-comedies before where people have died in the final act. Just to mention that. Yeah, you know, the odd person has been thrown off cliffs, as I recall. Again, tonal questions at the end here. All sorts of, it's the way the clown does this fun sort of comedy thing about he put his foot in his spur and his foot in the thing, and he rode like the clappers. So Dalavill he gets away, he's fine, and young Geraldine doesn't have to leave the country, and the wife's dead. And you have this thing of Wincott and young Geraldine's their love sprout, best buds. Yeah, I'm just gonna quietly go around the room and let Sarah just wind herself ready for the inevitable. We did talk about a woman killed with kindness the other day, didn't we? And lo, it came to pass. But what a journey we've had. I'll go to Aliki and then Stephen.
I've had such a good time with this play that I really don't want to kick it in the teeth for having a woman die of having been adulterous. So I have a fantasy production in which her sister actually spirited her away. That's why it's a letter. She's safe. She's gone to France. She's going to have a really exciting, adventurous life there.
Yeah. Stephen and then Sarah.
I mean, it's just so sad for me, this. The bit where he catches them and he doesn't do some kind of, mad Spanish tragedy shit. It's kind of, it's a good job I don't have a weapon because I would have really lost it. And then he kind of basically kills her anyway. And the reason that this gets her is actually that she hasn't, she doesn't think of herself at least as betraying or adulterating or anything like that. This is her kind of one true love, and that's why it basically kills her when he says, you should, go screw yourself. Because if she really didn't care, if she was really just kind of going, oh well, any port in a storm, it's dark anyway, whatever you'll do.
Night all cats are gray.
Yeah. It makes so that there is that kind of complexity of response there, and it's also the depends how patriarchal you are, but the felt excess and cruelty, where she's kind of just a victim, isn't she? She doesn't get a chance to defend herself, really. She's kind of playing it along, and he absolutely blows her to pieces. And it's just so patriarchy, that's fine, that's what you should do to people like that when you catch them in the act, and they deserve everything they get, but it doesn't fit the world of the play at all. You know, it is not, in a sense, it's not that kind of patriarchal world, this play. You know, we've been talking about the tone, we've been talking about benevolence, and this is a kind of just sort of terrible shot of reality, and she's been living in the play world. Well, guess what? You know, he strikes down upon her with terrible vengeance, because you know, that's the kind of tragi-comedy, is actually that world we've been enjoying is kind of fake and theatrical. And she kind of believes it and lives in that world, in a sense, you know. And then somebody from another world entirely comes and gets her. So
I just think there isn't enough room in the play with the subplot to actually develop this plot fully, because we only actually got to the reveal of everything midway, the beginning of Act 4, that we actually had the actual revelations of what was actually going on. We had all this sort of spilled up and intermingled with other stuff, and it's like we've actually got to what this plot of the play is about, and then it's like, oh no, the play has to end now, so death. And it's like there's no room at the inn for this to be fully developed where it could go. I'm going to go to Sarah, then I'll go back to Stephen.
Yeah, Stephen made some really good points there, but I just want to go back to what Aliki said about, you know, this adulterous woman dying. Because actually what you said there, Aliki, really crystallized my feelings about this play, because I have no problem with an adulterous woman dying in a tragedy. What I do really have a problem with is the fact that we don't get any of her motivation for doing what she's done. And yes, she is a victim, and yes, there is space in the play to imagine what she's thinking and feeling, but the fact is we do not get it. She is the one person who dies in the play, but we don't know what any of her motivation was for sleeping with Dalavill. Stephen's come up with like a really good interpretation of why it might be, but the fact is we get no conflict with her whatsoever. It's all relayed to us secondhand. We don't get any of her internal life whatsoever, and then we're expected to care about this because, oh, you know, she's died and she's the victim, and she's, you know, clearly it, you know, she was genuinely conflicted, because otherwise she wouldn't have popped her clogs at the end. You know, if she had just been, as Stephen said, if she'd just been like, you know, stringing them along and, you know, trying to just kind of get by while she's married to this old dude, it's like, well, then she wouldn't have died, but she did. And to put that kind of ending on a play, on a character, male or female actually, but yeah, patriarchy, so on a character who has not been given any space in the play whatsoever, I think is an absolute like sin of playwriting. And the fact that it comes at the end of this play, which has been so good, just makes it worse. And I mean, you're right in a sense, Rob, in that we haven't had time to kind of expand it. But then on the other hand, we have had a whole load of scenes with, for example, I was reading them today, old Geraldine and young Geraldine, like, oh, why are you going traveling again, blah blah blah. I'm sorry, but all those lines could have been cut and they could have been given to wife. We could have had some speeches between her and Dalavill. We could have had some speeches between her and Wincott, because that relationship seemed to me to be actually really
but it's
fun
not
and interesting.
It's not just about moving, you know, a few speeches and giving her a few more lines. It's that there isn't a plot here actually that goes anywhere. They discover there's an affair, and then she dies.
But
that's it. Nothing else happens in this plot.
But there could be, like
there could be, but you need another play to do it. I mean, there isn't room, even if you cut stuff in this plot.
I do not agree. I think if you cut stuff, if you cut some of the chit chat from the male characters just in this A plot, there would be room for her. And also, like, we're finished, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but we've read, okay, we're looking at 23,500 words, but we've read longer plays than this. I don't buy that argument that there's not enough time, because actually, if Heywood has structured this play so well, if he'd wanted to make time, he would have found it. And so I
say it's not. It's the question. I say about plotting in the sense of what actually happens. And actually, I say, for most of the first half of this play, nothing has happened in this plot. We've had a lot of background stuff, but in terms of this plot, it's like he's got nowhere to take it. He literally has nowhere to take it, and then he just fridges her at the end.
Well, yeah, but fridging her is fine. Fridging her is absolutely fine. Like, if that's what he wants to do with his character, that's fine. You know, it's a tragi-comedy. He wants to kill her off. That's his prerogative. But like, he hasn't set her up for that at all. That's my big issue with this. Like,
oh yeah, no, I entirely agree. I mean, we're sort of arguing in agreement. I just, this is a terrible ending for a plot that doesn't really go anywhere. This is the thing. I don't think this A plot has the B plot has a shape. The B plot has a beginning, middle, and end. The A plot doesn't. And for fridging is when you kill off a character, usually a female character, usually a minority character, usually at the beginning of something, so that the men are all sad, so that they have a journey. And that's precisely what basically they get to. It's very late in the day to fridge someone, because they don't have much time to be sad about it and to learn and grow and develop. But in this particular case. It's very late in the day, but there's just surprisingly little shape. It's like it spends an awful long time to then go nowhere at all. Stephen's maybe disagreeing with it. I see Stephen's been shaking his head a lot, so I'll go to
No, it's my thinking. Sometimes I think with my face, sorry. It's such a rich and interesting discussion. It's really thought-provoking. I was kind of wondering, not to say square the circle, but we are sort of 40 years in, 30 plus years into professional theatre, where every possible kind of variant on straight tragedy or straight comedy, as it were, has been done. And the way I kind of square it is, this is a sort of, this is kind of Tarantino-esque attempt from a creative who's been writing, he's written hundreds of plays, It's kind of like, well, what if I didn't do this and I deprived myself of that and I think the other, So, I mean, one way around it is to kind of say this is a generic experiment which is driven by, the creative artist relentlessly kind of, okay, Paul McCartney, sort of, he just can't stop making records, and it's kind of, but they have to be different. Or something that's driven by a sort of omnivorous kind of TV style repertoire. So that, it's a decadent tragedy. It doesn't work as a tragedy. It's a really weird comedy. We've spoken about the kind of tonal challenges, but this could be incompetence, but it could be, it could be experimentation of some kind. And that's why it's just, the gears are just grating, is because they haven't worked out how to do it as well as they do comedy or they do tragedy. So that was my thought, really. It's kind of like, there are certain things you can justifiably say about Tarantino, but if you say certain other things, you're kind of like missing the point about what some of those early films are trying to do, which is kind of a generic game from people who've seen way too many plays. Just a thought.
Lynn.
Yeah, I think Sarah is right about the problem isn't that that the play decides to kill the adulterous wife. The problem is we don't know who she is when we lose her. And the wannabe dramaturg in me has an idea for fixing that with a minimum of of changing. And you'd have to have someone who could persuasively reproduce a mid 17th century blank verse, which is hard. But after she parts with Dalavill, you can just give her a monologue where we don't answer any questions, but we see her thinking to herself, why am I doing this? I'm fond of my husband. I love Geraldine. And the one person I'm sleeping with is the person I don't really like that much. Why am I doing this? I don't understand myself. And I can't stop myself. I'm like so miserable. Why am I like this? Because I think that's very human. We all do stuff. I hope it's not just me. But later on, we're like, why the hell did I even do that? Like, why am I so self-destructive? Why am I doing this? And then, all blows up in your face. And just like, I can't even explain myself. I think that's very human. If you just gave her a moment to say, I'm doing this and I know it's wrong and I don't even know why myself, then I think that kind of band-aids over a lot of problems. And still, in the end, I think maybe what I would do, just to sort of experiment with, like, let's just make this ending really unsatisfactory and unsavory. Instead of saying, oh, I'm going to go off and expire now, she says, no, I release you from your vow. I can do that. The vow that you made to me not to get married again, I absolve you of that. That needs to be canceled now because I didn't keep my half, so you're free. That's the best I can do for you. And he's like, oh, thanks very much. And then Prudentilla comes on. He's like, hey, you want to get married? She's like, oh, I've always had such a crush on you. Sure. So in the end, like, it would be like really kind of icky. He's married to someone he doesn't really love. Poor Prudentilla. And then the wife has to live with what she's done, knowing that the love of her life is married to her sister. So everybody's unhappy.
Yeah, I mean, it is that thing that the structure of the play means that you can't have interior life of the wife in regards to why she's doing things, because the audience isn't told she's definitely doing those things until Act 4. So it's there's this, the only place you could put that is in Act 5, at the very, very end of the play.
Well, I think once it's true that she's having an off with Dalavill, you have an opportunity to show her internal conflict and how she already kind of hates herself for this and doesn't understand her own motives, and is really just sort of tortured. And I think you could do that fairly economically, and I think it would help a lot.
Briony.
Yeah, kind of playing devil's advocate here and ready to get shut down in a big way. But could we not go the other way with it? And at the end, like, she's trying to say her last words and the men just keep cutting in and mansplaining it for her. I don't know. Could you not? Is there no way? Because it's a tragi-comedy. Could you not lean into it and make that the amusing thing, that this woman is so, disregarded and two-dimensional in this sort of situation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Are there thoughts in the room? I'm not going to go around for final thoughts because actually we're running quite late and a lot of thoughts have gone out. So if you have additional final things to say, throw them in. Stephen.
Yeah, she's not been punished for adultery. Nobody cares about the adultery, really. It's not for what she's done vis-a-vis her husband, is it? It's the vow that she's broken. So, I mean, that to me is a kind of, what's his face? Random bloke, whatever his name is. He's behaving as though he is her husband, but all they've done is kind of made a vow to each other to be kind of remain true and keep their hands off one another. That's not something which has the full weight of patriarchy behind it, but he behaves as though it does. The people have been talking about adultery. I don't know if that's just like shorthand, but it's not really adultery vis-a-vis whatever his name is, is it? And nobody cares if it's the husband. Really?
No, and I don't even think the husband would care. I do get the impression that he's, he'd actually sort of go, because he's such a, he seems a very forgiving chap all the way through. I kind of wonder whether he's sort of just pinching himself that he's married to who he is anyway, and sort of just going, oh, well. I wouldn't be surprised in the least, because he's much more concerned about young Gerald. And I do wonder, actually, whether that's an angle that we're maybe missing. Alan?
I must admit, I found the whole thing rather unsatisfying, because we've got this whole denouement which we've been analysing to death over the last quarter of an hour, which doesn't seem to have any background rationale. And yet earlier we got the situation of the two ne'er-do-wells, young Lionel and Reignald, who basically get off scot-free. And it just doesn't... I'm not... To a certain extent, I think I'd walk out of it thinking, why?
I have to...
That's an evening I'm not going to see again.
We've really enjoyed all of it, and it does feel like he's just plucked an ending he's used before for the final scene. It does feel the ending is deeply unsettling, because I'd say I think he had fun playing with the reveal, but he didn't know where that story was actually going. That's sort of how I feel about that plot. And actually, it's interesting. It's a similar issue with the B plot, which I'm very happy with mostly, is that introduce certain elements in the very first act or so, certain characters who don't actually go anywhere. And it's like, when he started, he thought he was going to do something more with them, and then he didn't, and then this. So it's almost like the place slightly ran away from him. That said, the B plot, I was saying the other day, I was actually quite content to let the two plots lie side by side. I'm now much more of the opinion that I quite like the B plot and would quite like to do it as a separate play, actually. I really love the whole house business and Reignald's dancing. And, like The Changeling, which we haven't read, but everyone keeps bringing up. It often done as removing one of the plot lines. Whereas in this case, I prefer the B plot to the A plot, because the B plot goes somewhere. I like so much about the A plot until the end, and it's just such a shit ending on so many levels. Because none of what happens at the end is also signposted. There's nothing. Whereas the B plot has got lots of signposts to what happens later on in the play, so they actually have literal callbacks and going, the ghost thing and the knock and all of the stuff from earlier is reiterated in really satisfying ways. So, yeah. Any additional thoughts to throw in there? Aliki?
So I was wondering, Lois, I think, said that this was a reworking of a Roman comedy of Plautus's. I'm quite curious to see if that one ends this way.
Just for the B plot, yeah.
I am 99.9% certain that that there's a general resolution of some description at the end, yes. But I can't remember off the top of my head. Lynn?
There are, I just was checking earlier, there are multiple PDF versions of translations of that available on the internet, so you can look it up.
And it's called The Haunted House or something like that.
That's one of the translations that, let's see if I still have that window up. The Greek title begins with an M.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find it now. I'm just flicking through my thing, because there's another play that this also is riffing off. But we haven't read it yet. Mostellaria.
Yeah.
Is the Plautus Mostellaria.
Okay.
Or Mostellaria. And yes, and it is riffing, as I say, off a John Fletcher and Francis Beaumont play as well, which I suspect is where the reversals come in. Because, plots suddenly changing direction and having the rug pulled from under you. That's what Beaumont and Fletcher do. I don't know, because we haven't read the particular play yet. And I'm not going to tell you which one it is either, because I want you to be a surprise. It's a parlour game to see if you recognise this bit in this play. So far, we've been very bad at that. The Chapman play that we'd read, not quite back to back, which utilised scenes from one of the other plays. We were not so hot on picking that up, but never mind. That's part of the exercise. Any other final thoughts to throw in? Anyone want to throw anything in? Emma, haven't heard much from you. Do you have anything you want to add to the general melee?
Nothing to add. I think my thoughts kind of marry up with a lot of what's already been said.
Yeah, it's a tragedy or a tragi-comedy when a play doesn't stick the landing, and it just sort of stops, and that's in a rubbish way, and that makes me very annoyed. Makes me very annoyed. He said, turning pages, looking for things. Okay, all that remains is to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Maybe we can resolve this issue. Maybe we can't. Maybe you can. Answers on a postcard. By all means, comment. Add something in the comment section. We welcome passive-aggressive abuse. That's what the internet is for. So if you have any other thoughts about what you can do with this play, let us know. All that remains, thank all the wonderful readers for their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. I have laid rods in piss for somebody.